Imagine a billion-euro airport that sits silent for nearly a decade. Not a plane in sight. No rush of travelers. Just a lonely ghost train rolling in once a day to stir the air, and luggage belts spinning purely so they don't freeze up from inactivity. No, this isn't a post-apocalyptic movie set. It was Brandenburg Berlin Airport, Europe's most embarrassing infrastructure saga. For years, its departure boards displayed nothing. In fact, the screens wore out from displaying zilch. Despite being open now and fully operational, this airport's path to the skies was more turbulent than a Ryanair landing during a windstorm. A shiny terminal with a haunted past. Fast forward to today, and Brandenburg Airport is buzzing with passengers and functioning just fine. You'd never guess it once held the prestigious title of Europe's most controversial airport. But scratch the surface, and you'll find 3 decades of delays, dysfunction, and disasters that make faulty towers look like a well-oiled operation. It all began with a lofty dream back in the early 90s, a dream to give newly unified Berlin a world-class airport. What they got instead was a masterclass in what happens when bureaucracy, egos, and engineering go spectacularly wrong. A dream born from reunification. After the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, Germany found itself with a united capital that desperately needed to modernize. The population doubled overnight, and with it came a scramble to integrate 2 economies, 2 infrastructures, and 2 wildly different ways of life. Berlin had 3 airports, Tegel, Tempelhof, and Schönefeld, and none of them could handle the demands of the reunified city. So what do you do when your city suddenly becomes a major European hub? You build a new, shiny international airport, of course. One that could rival Frankfurt and Munich. It was supposed to be efficient, symbolic, and a beacon of German engineering. It was none of those things for a very long time. 6 years to pick a spot. Yes, just the spot. You'd think choosing a location would be the easy part. Think again. It took 6 full years just to settle on a site right next to Schönefeld Airport, ironically. Construction didn't even begin until 2006. And if that wasn't slow enough, the global financial crisis of 2007-08 swooped in like an unwanted travel delay, making private investment nearly impossible. So they turned to public funding. Cue the chaos. A budget that aged like milk. The project started with what was already the jaw-dropping €2 billion budget, enough to make any taxpayer sweat. But as the years dragged on and problems mounted, that figure didn't just creep up, it skyrocketed past €7 billion, making it one of Europe's most expensive infrastructure headaches. It was the financial equivalent of booking a budget airline ticket, and then being charged extra for air, seat cushions, and smiling. One of the key culprits, the decision to chop the project into hundreds of smaller contracts, all managed by different companies. On paper, this looked like a clever way to reduce costs and boost efficiency. In reality, it turned into a logistical spaghetti mess. Coordinating dozens of contractors with overlapping responsibilities led to mass confusion, miscommunication, and delays. It was like trying to build IKEA furniture using 45 instruction manuals, none in the same language, and discovering halfway through that you're out of screws and someone glued the Allen key to the ceiling. Instead of saving money, it created a sprawling tangle of mismatched parts that no one could fully control. A starchitect with strong opinions. They brought in Meinhard von Jerken, a respected architect who had designed major Berlin landmarks, including the Central Railway Station. But von Jerken was no fan of modern airport retail. He loathed the idea of terminals turning into shopping malls and famously grumbled about travelers dragging around bottles of whiskey like beggars. So he designed an airport with as little retail space as possible. Unfortunately for him, airport executives had other ideas. Airports make big bucks from shops, up to 50% of their revenue, so new shopping floors had to be bolted onto von Jerken's vision like awkward accessories on a minimalist dress. He wasn't amused. The Airbus A380 that never came. As if things weren't messy enough, Berlin's then-mayor Klaus Wowereit insisted that the airport be equipped for Airbus A380s, the largest passenger jets in the world. Sounds impressive, except by the time the airport opened, the A380 was being phased out of production. It's like building a giant VHS rental store in 2020. Meanwhile, the airport had zero low-cost gates, even as budget airlines were dominating the skies. Another last-minute redesign followed, as jet bridges had to be reworked for low-cost carriers. Every decision seemed one step behind the times. The opening that never was. The grand opening was set for 2012. The press was lined up. Invitations had been sent. Berlin was ready to show off its new crown jewel. In a plot twist worthy of a soap opera, it turned out the entire fire safety system didn't work. There was no viable way to evacuate the terminal in an emergency. So just weeks before opening, the whole thing was scrapped. The airport couldn't legally open. What followed was a global embarrassment and an avalanche of new problems. A tangle of cables and confusion. A deep dive into the airport systems uncovered over 120,000 defects. One of the worst? Over 170,000 kilometers of electrical cable had been installed incorrectly. That's enough wire to wrap around the Earth 4 times. Von Jerken was swiftly dismissed. In came Hartmut Medorn, former CEO of Germany's biggest railway company, with a plan to fix the mess. Medorn took one look at the situation and discovered, brace yourself, 550,000 issues. If airport construction were an Olympic sport, Brandenburg would have medalled in disaster. Calls to scrap the whole thing. With the project massively over budget, years behind schedule, and riddled with faults, many suggested just tearing the whole thing down and starting over. But at that point, the project had become a financial black hole. Too much money had already been spent. Like a gambler at the roulette table, Berlin had to see it through. So construction limped on. The airport missed its revised openings in 2013, 2014, and 2017. By 2019, it was still sitting idle in an empty shell with rotating luggage carousels and not a single flight in sight. A pandemic lifeline. Then came 2020. The global pandemic brought international travel to a grinding halt. Ironically, it turned out to be the best possible moment for a dysfunctional airport to quietly open. With fewer passengers and less pressure, Brandenburg finally cut the ribbon on October 31, 2020. With the world grounded, there was time to fix bugs, address technical issues, and get operations running smoothly without the chaos of full traffic. Talk about silver linings. Finally soaring in the skies. By the time passenger numbers rebounded in 2022 and 2023, Brandenburg was finally ready for the spotlight. The kinks had been ironed out, and the airport was operating like a well-oiled machine, albeit a very expensive one. In 2023, it even won the Airport Innovation Award. If you enjoyed this video, give that like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's wildest construction tales. Got a favorite infrastructure fail? Drop it in the comments below. And remember, sometimes even a ghost terminal just needs a second chance.